Sing a song, spread some cheer, spread some cheer. There are sad and lonely people everywhere. Be a friend, show some love. It will lift them from the dungeons of despair. Show a little bit of love and kindness, never go along with hatred's blindness. Take a little time to reach for joy and wear a happy face. Sing a little bit when the days are dreary. Give a little help to a friend who's weary. That's the way to make the world a happy place. Offer help.
I'd like to welcome in a very special way Representative Kind, who flew in today from Washington, D.C. Representative Kind, would you be so kind as to share with us your response to this and perhaps help us to move forward?
You've been here for a while, but first I want to thank Sister Eileen Lee, for the invitation and for the organization, the Friends of Kambu, Rotary International, all those who have expressed concern and interest in this. But I especially want to thank our dear friends and invited guests from Cameroon, and for your willingness to come here and share your testimonial before us today. There is nothing more powerful than what we just heard here today. It is a call to action. There's a cry for help. And this touches me very personally. One of the most impactful courses that I took as an undergrad was a semester-long course on genocide. And of course, the focus was on the Holocaust. After the Second World War, it was taught by survivors of that genocide. But we also studied the genocide and genocidal practices throughout the globe at the time. What you heard here today are classic gradations of genocide that are being perpetrated even now in the 21st century. And it's a call to action for all humanity, because where there are human rights abuses, where there's suffering and oppression, when there's death and there's mass rape, when there's ethnic cleansing, cultural and heritage attack, it diminishes our entire humanity on this globe. And it is happening right now in Africa, in your homeland, affecting your families, and we must do better. As Sister Eileen pointed out, I had a chance, the privilege really, to serve on the Tom Lantos Human Rights Commission. We try to keep an eye on this and other instances throughout the globe. And I was able to join forces with a very dear friend and colleague of mine from California, Karen Bass, in drafting this resolution, asking for the U.S. government to be much more proactive in trying to foster a peaceful dialogue and peaceful resolution to the conflict that's currently happening in Cameroon. And also to denounce and to call out, to document the human rights violations, because it's important that this gets documented as well. I also cut my political teeth, some of you may know, with former Senator Bill Proxmire. And he was famous for one of his chief causes. You see, after the Second World War, with the creation of the United Nations, one of the first steps that the United Nations took was to pass a treaty that made genocide international crime. And we were one of the first signatories to the anti-genocide treaty. But unfortunately, throughout the years, there was one excuse after another in the United States Senate that gave them cause not to bring it up for consideration, to delay consideration, and not to ratify the anti-genocide treaty. Senator Proxmire saw what was happening, and he felt it was a major moral blemish on our nation's character. That we were there to be one of the first signatories to genocide, and we were one of the last remaining nations throughout the globe that still had not ratified it. So he took it upon himself for 18 consecutive years. Every day when the United States Senate opened in session, he would go down to the Senate floor and he would deliver a 2-3 minute speech on the need for the United States Senate to ratify the anti-genocide treaty. For 18 consecutive years he did that. As an intern in his office, I got a chance to write many of those speeches and go down to the Senate floor and listen to him deliver it. And I was just shaking my head, aghast at why is this so difficult for us to do. But Senator Proxmire was living proof that one person can make a difference. He wouldn't let go. And every day he would show up and he'd deliver that constant reminder in front of his Senate colleagues' faces, hey, we have unfinished work to do here. We've got to get this anti-genocide treaty passed. And lo and behold, in the final year when he was in office, after we were able to resolve some difficulties with Senator Jesse Helms' office, which was the major barrier to us considering it. They finally allowed it to come up for consideration, and of course it passed unanimously at that point. But he, again, is living proof that one person can make a difference with the right cause at the right time. And that's why I draw inspiration not only from your guys' testimony on what is happening, but what I see here today in this room, all you and the concern that you're expressing. Cameroon, as you imagine, may seem like a million miles away from the people here in western Wisconsin, but it is a real event that's happening in our lifetimes, and it must be called out. And there's no country in the world in a better position to go in and make a meaningful impact than the United States right now. And with Karen Bass's help, we were able to get on the phone with General Tom Walthauser. He's in charge of our Strategic Command in Africa. We recognize that Boko Haram is a terrible threat throughout the region. We have partnered with Cameroonian forces, security forces, in order to battle the influence and spread of Boko Haram. But we impressed upon him that we have to walk and chew gum at the same time. Not only deal with Boko Haram, but also to call out and work with President Baya and get their attention. Otherwise, the support that they do receive from us, and primarily from our military, can easily be withdrawn. In response to that, we had a $17 million reduction in military aid to Cameroonian security forces. Sanctioned numerous people in Cameroon now who have been directly involved with this. We also were able to get in touch with State Department. We were able to convince the Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs to go over there and have a discussion just to raise this issue and to make sure that the government there, which is longstanding, recognizes that there are many of us here in the United States paying close attention to what is happening. And we will not ignore the situation. But much more needs to be done. So we're planning on reintroducing the resolution shortly. Bipartisan support from people like you and the voices that we're hearing. Given my perch on the Trade Subcommittee, I'm trying to finagle a small congressional delegation, CODEL, to Cameroon. I sheepishly admit that I haven't had the chance to visit Africa, let alone Cameroon yet. And I've always believed for some time that our engagement with the world, our foreign policy, has been way too much east-west oriented and not enough north-south. That involves Africa, that involves Central and South America. And there's a lot happening in those regions that we can't afford to ignore or to turn our head away from. Late last year, I was able to finally get down to Argentina in order to spend some time with their government and the reforms and challenges that they're facing. But right now, the real crisis when it comes to humanitarian levels is happening in Sub-Sahara and in Cameroon in particular. And it's important that we do everything we can to try to find some peaceful resolution as soon as we can. So I guess my message to our guests and our visitors here today, that as long as I have a voice in the United States Congress, I'm going to use it. As long as I have a vote in the United States Congress, I'm going to use it. As long as I got a hand, I'm going to write letters to our administration. As long as I can pick up the phone, I'm going to be calling our Defense Department, our State Department, and right up to the White House itself in order to get their attention, because we all need to be leaning in heavily right now and doing what we can to alleviate your pain and your suffering and the suffering of your family and friends back home. So that's my pledge for you today. I just want to thank you again for sharing your stories, and it was deeply, deeply impactful to me, as I'm sure it is with the rest of our guests here tonight. So thank you very much. Sister Eileen, thank you.